Welcome to Carolina Sculpture Studio. My name's Clint Button and I'm a granite sculptor. Welcome to video number 14 of the virtual stone carving apprenticeship. Before I start doing any axing to really start closing and wrapping this panel up to get this one straightened out so we can move on to the next one, I want to talk just a little bit to people who, we've got a number of people that looks like they're signing up, subscribing, that are interested in stone wall work, masonry, stuff like that. And a lot of times I understand that involves putting plaques or signage, doing a flat spot on a stone, on a natural stone, and you're not going to carry it to another face. So I wanted to take a minute and talk about how this is applicable to that, because you may only need to do this individual flat face. And so let's talk about that just a little bit and talk about a few hand tools and some fixtures that may help you out. I'll try to come over here and pan these tools a little bit to show you. I've got some various hand tools, you know, hand sets, chippers, points, chisels, and both tool steel, which is very tough and elastic. It doesn't stay sharp, but it lasts a long time. And carbide, which you can sharpen up, almost sharp enough to cut your finger, rub it on the edge of it, pretty easy. And then so it's a very accurate point as opposed to being a very tough point. I wanted to talk about the difference in hammers too, because people don't understand that a drilling hammer is not a sledgehammer. There's a difference, and how you use the hammer relates to how the hole should be broached in the head. So let's talk about these a little bit. I pointed out in previous videos, I think not on the apprenticeship stuff, but how a chisel needs to be, the head of your tool needs to be dressed. It should be all mushroomed. And the reason for that, one of these needing to be dressed, this big hand set right here, it hasn't been dressed lately. What happens when it flares, it starts to flare, is that creates weakness along the edge, and then you have blowout. And when that chips, you're wasting tool. And now to get rid of that, if I wanted to clean that all up, I've got to grind that all off, smooth it up, and now I got a smaller head that's going to mushroom faster. I want to keep this dressed to a taper down all the way on a regular grinder. You can't use a green wheel because green wheel won't cut steel very well. It's made for carbide. So this needs to be dressed and cleaned up to get rid of these chips, because these chips are what go into your eye, or somebody that's next to you will go into their body somewhere, their eye, their arm, their whatever. They'll stab into your arm. They hurt. They friggin' hurt when you try to pull them out and you've got this crooked metal sliver that's a 1/4 inch deep in your arm you wish you had. Okay, this is a drilling hammer. A drill is struck, tick, 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 and you turn it. You keep hitting it. You don't swing over your head like this, and that's indicated by this round hole. If you swing this hammer hard and you hold it tight enough, if you're strong enough to hold that hammer and swing this really hard, this head will rotate on that actual round hole. And when it rotates, you'll have a misstrike. It may be your finger, it may break a job, it's all kinds of problems. A sledgehammer that's meant to be swung hard, this one's pretty hammered, will have an oval hole, and that means you can really let it go. Now this is a 6-pound sledgehammer on a short handle. It's my favorite hammer because the tool does the work. I don't have to throw it like I do a 1-pound or a 2-pound or even a 4-pound hammer to cut the same kind of work and make the same kind of achievement. So this is my go-to hammer for anything that's serious stone removal, because I can really do it. And I found that it's difficult to put an 8-pound head on a short handle because the handles explode. They can't take the shock of hitting hard. So your handle will just shatter and unravel and fall apart. So 6 pounds is a nice balance, nice hammer. Okay, the reason I brought these tools over here is because we're going to take and cut this crack off. Now, cracks don't heal. Stone doesn't heal. If you think it's broken, it probably is. And it's not going to get better if you just pretend and leave it there. Water and microscopic plant growth will go in there and force it apart and grow that crack. When you're working with your hand machine, if you have something that cracks, like if you check a line, like you don't draw your chisel straight along an edge and create a stress riser, because it will cause it to crack on. When I saw these lines and then rip them out with my chisel, I like to run along each side and they just pop right off. Well, when you're carving, if you define things with the end of your chisel with a sharp edge, it'll do the same thing, but you don't want it. When you're carving and it cracks, you'll notice that the surface of the stone vibrates differently. You'll have little bits of gravel on there and they'll start to dance over where it's cracked. It's already cracked. You're done. You're screwed. You got to take care of it. You got to take it off. It'll also puff when you hit it and it first cracks. If you're paying attention, you'll see a little just of dust on the other side, and now you know you cracked the stone. So that ain't cool. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to try to move the camera to see if we can see this. I know when I put the light on it, it makes the top of the stone really bright and it's hard to see. Not found a way around that yet. We've had, TV crews and professionals in the studio over the years, and I always tell them you got to leave your lights off, and they say, well, for the values and the light levels, we have to have them on. You turn the light on, it washes the whole stone. It looks like I don't know what I'm doing because it's an ugly stone, because there's no value. All the shape is gone and everything because the crystals reflect the light. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, I'm trying to move the camera over here and see if we can get this. And we'll knock this cracked piece off because it's got to come off, and I want to get it gone and have a better idea of where we're going. Okay, flick the light on for a second here, see if it warms up and comes on. My crack, I'm going to mark it where I can see it just with my red pencil to see if that helps. Y'all see it. Okay, I don't know, you can see that. That's where I know the crack is, okay? And looking at the stone down under here, it could extend back into this area very easily. Now, remember, we decided that this face that's opposite with the one drill hole is the rift. So this is probably the rift as well. So it should break off fairly straight and not dig way into the stone. But who knows? This is the wrong hammer to be swinging to break stone off. This is for lighter work. That's not what I want to use. I'd rather use, you can use it, it's up to you. I'd rather use either a solid hammer. I love these swung-hammers, and I love my 6-pound. What I'm going to do, there's several ways I could attack this. I could take a handset that's big, twice as big as my small one, and I could put it on here and I could strike it and see how it goes. Now that may pull it and make it a really long break. I don't know if I want to waste that much stone off if I don't have to. If I go like this, it's not going to break as advantageously. I don't want to have a square chunk because I'm still going to have to get rid of it. So I'm going to go on at about a 45-degree angle. I'm going to hit it easy once or twice and see if that crack opens up so I can read it. And when I get back to wherever it looks like the crack has a base or a foundation, the root of the crack, then I'll move back to that and I'll try to hit it there. I like to use a little heavier tool because it has a little better inertia once you hit it. And but we'll see how this goes. All right, see, now that didn't look like it cracked much further, so I'm going to hit it harder. All right, there we go. Now see, it cracked. It's back underneath here. I got more coming off. I'm going to go back on here to where it looks like the crack probably goes and just take it off. Now, I mentioned before, this mahogany is nasty stone. When you got stone that's these big crystals like this, you'll be cutting away, and all of a sudden your hand's all sweaty and slippery. Well, buddy, it ain't sweat. You're going to have a bunch of stone stuck in your arm. So if you're cutting something like a mahogany or like a serpentine, verde antique, something that's got some real glassy qualities, black granite from that place way across the ocean where I don't like their granite, then wear something with a long sleeve. And I will point out, talk about paying attention. I'm going to try to put some video up here of my apron from working yesterday. I want you to see that when my arm is closed, the apron's up over my arm. That cutout is far above my arm. The belt is at my approximate elbow level, and then the cutout is above my arm, and that helps keep me from getting caught in the apron and pulling it down. So take a look at that. That's why I designed it like that. Well, let's set the camera back. This will be fine. And see, that took us clear into this one foundation point. We got this other piece here we'll clean off. But I want to show you something else for a fixture. People that are doing panels, like cutting a panel on the face of a stone. This is a fixture that I made that I've used a few times, and I use it very much. It's just a flat piece of plywood. I think this is 12 by 18, which is the size of the plaques you normally get for veteran burials from the VA. And if you're going to put this on the face of a boulder or a rough stone, it can be a challenge to figure out how deep to go. So I've set this up. I've got 4 pieces of all thread that are done to a point with a wing nut and then a lock nut to go behind it. And then you can put another nut on the back if you want. I don't have them on these right now just because I don't. And then you can set this on your rough stone in order to figure out how deep you need to cut where in order to get this stone, this panel, this plaque oriented the way you want on the stone, so it's not skewed, so it's not too vertical or horizontal. And now you have to sort of think inside out with this, because if it goes down 3 inches here and only 1 inch here, and you cut that much, then you know, you're going to still have the same situation you're in. You're just reproducing the surface of the stone. But this can give you an idea. If you've got to go really deep here, you're going to have to split that difference. You're going to have to reciprocate it to the other side. And maybe that's too complicated to think about. For me, I've done a lot of this panel work over the years in terms of, you know, truing panels and everything, so it's easier for me to understand. But this gives you a good idea on where to go, how much you have to cut, because if you got to go really deep over here and only a little bit over here, you're obviously going to have to carry this other side down to catch up with your low spots, because your low spots are really what determines the job. So your high spots have to be cut until they are the same depth. Now each one of these pieces is the same exact length as the other one. And that's important, because I can take this, I can mark my hole. That's why I've got a hole in the middle and a hole on the side. I can reach it and mark it. Then I can, if I don't have a nut on here, which I don't, I've just got wires holding these on, and this is locked, I can pull this out and I can compare it to the other ones. And if this is, you know, an inch difference between here, means I got to carry these other ones down further to match up with my deepest one. And so you have to just, you got to do a little bit of thinking, but it eliminates having to figure out that you've got to go exactly so deep, exactly such a spot, and you've got to measure it and do the math. You can just set it up with these, lock them in place, and then you can compare them, keep them organized, and you'll know how far one has to go versus the other one. So I hope that makes sense. It probably doesn't. If you're doing this work and you're smart enough, this ought to help you figure out where you're going with it. But this fixture's helped me out more than once. So I don't have to get on site and guess about it and spend a lot of time wondering, because if you're doing panels on rough boulders to put plaques or stuff, or even to cut them smooth, it can be a challenge. So that's one more piece of how I do it. Now, if you're, as far as this panel goes, if we were just going to put a plaque on here, we really only have to cut our perimeter down and get that squared up, level, true, whatever, so that it looks nice with the plaque. And then we can dig the center out just a little bit, just so it doesn't foul or interfere. And a lot of plaques are hollow on the back, so as long as this perimeter is nice and straight and it doesn't rock or whatever, you get a really nice fit. Oh, I ought to show you that. If you take... All right, I'm back. Let's use this. Just, it's a flat sheet of tin. Actually, it goes over this. To pretend this is either a plaque or maybe it's the bottom of a piece of sculpture. It's the joint. And we've got, if it was a plaque, it may have, you know, 4 holes, 4 receivers for studs that don't penetrate it. Or if it was a statue, it may already have a hole drilled in it, or 1 or 2 holes on the joint, so you can epoxy it in place. Now, if it's a plaque and they're long receivers, sure, you can put it on a stone and try to reach and trace around. But if it's solid, you can't. So get some tape. You take one piece, you lay it sticky side up over your, we're going to pretend there's a hole right there, because that's over that receiver, okay? And then you take another piece with a hole in it, and you go right over there. So now that this is attached to that, okay, with the hole right in the center where there's a threaded receiver. Now we're going to figure, and if you got 4 of them, you can put 4 of them on there. If you got 1 in the middle, whatever. Now we're going to put it where we want it on our stone. Make sure it presses down, and then we're going to very carefully lift it up. Now we've got a place where we can drill our hole on the stone. Works fantastic. Jim Sardonis, master sculptor, fine art sculptor, worked there in the studio with us. He did the whale's tails up in Vermont. And the big great ox out of Carrara marble that are at the Boston Aquarium. He's got a whole bunch of work, especially around New England, some really cool stuff. The fiddlehead ferns over at Exeter. He showed us that, and this works really, really well for transferring blind holes on the bottom of something. You can do it on anything, but he showed it to us to do stone in order to have something on a joint that you can't get at, and you put that on there and press it on, and then you remove it. You need to make the tape really long so you can function with it. A lot of times the tape will go so long on a small statue, it goes all the way around the side, so it glues up. I just did this short, so I'm not wasting a bunch of tape. But, well, I guess I'm not going to be cutting any stone in this video beyond what I already did, knocking this off. I hope that made sense. I'm down to more solid stone now, but still, to square this up, I'm probably going to take a lot off that edge. So, like I said before, I'm not going to worry about cleaning all that up. But we'll come back in here, and I'm really looking forward to scraping these up. I'll get all these. I'll probably take a short level, put my plumb blocks on, and make sure that my 4 reference points are plumb, that the top of these is level, and so that they're not tipped one way or the other. I'll try to make them nice and square and get these really tuned up perfect, because I know that these are still the deepest points on this stone. And once I get those straightened out and get those perfect, then I'll take my straight edge and combination square and just start axing all this off and smooth it up. Then we'll do a whole wash. I haven't decided. We may even do one of these panels and then polish it. I don't know how many people polish stone here. I don't like to polish stone. It's a sloppy, nasty mess. Some people dig it. It isn't my favorite thing to do, but once in a blue moon I have to polish something. If you're going to polish stone, if you can polish a flat surface, it's flat like a piece of glass, buddy, you're good. I'm not that good. Mine tends to wiggle a little bit. But I've done some of it, can show you what Henry taught me about it. And it didn't teach me much, but he doesn't tell me how to do it, and then tell me I either did a good job or didn't. So, but anyways, and but Henry's another master that's dead, Henry LaPearl. We'll axe some stone in the next video. We get this posted, but I hope this helps you get some ideas on how to do at least one face, what you can do in terms of a plaque and a fixture that may help you figure out how to place it better. It works real well for me. It takes a little bit of thinking, but it's not that complicated. So, because you can use these just like a pointing machine. We'll talk about a pointing machine later, but you'll have your depths and they'll vary, and so you can figure out your discrepancies in depth down to the lowest point. So, but my name's Clint Button here at Carolina Sculpture Studio, wrapping up another installment of the Virtual Stone Carving Apprenticeship. Thanks for coming in.